You are listening to a Fangirls Going Rogue priority transmission.
All team, give it everything you got!
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in.
I don't think there's anything more important in the Star Wars universe than the fans.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
With your hosts, Teresa Delgado, Trisha Barr, and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Welcome back to a Fangirls Going Rogue priority transmission, and this one is all focused on Lego Star Wars, one of my favorite things. I am one of your hosts, Teresa Delgado. Trisha and Sarah could not be here with me today, but standing in for them are the creators of Lego Star Wars The Freemaker Adventures, Bill Motz and Bob Roth. Hi, guys.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
So, we've talked a little bit about Lego Star Wars on our show. I have done more talking about it than my co-host, mainly because I collect Lego sets. I collect Disney ones and Star Wars ones, and I have so many, it's unbelievable. And so when the show came out, I was so excited. So excited. How has the ride been for you guys over the past year?
It's been like the craziest, most fun roller coaster ever. Like, we are both giant Lego and Star Wars fans, and we're not just saying that because we get this job. We've got this job long before this job was even a possibility. We're sitting here in my guest house, which we're just surrounded by Star Wars memorabilia and toys and stuff I've accumulated since May 25th, 1977. And, this show is a dream come true for us. It's a kick every day. And, we never get tired of saying, okay, well, it's time to sit down and look at an animatic of our Star Wars show. So it's crazy. It's been crazy fun. And it's been so gratifying to see that, it's been embraced by, families, which was our top goal. That, we wanted to make something that wasn't just for the kids, but for everybody to sit around and watch together. It's been an insanely fun time.
Yeah.
One of the cool moments as you're a Lego fan that I remember being a very surreal, amazing, pinch me, is this really happening moments is when we went to Bill in Denmark, where Lego is headquartered. And we met with the designers, and they had done what they call their sketch models of our ships, the Star Scavenger and the Eclipse Fighter. And they were saying, what do you think? This is what we're sort of thinking it looks like. And it was such a strange thing to be holding this actual physical model of this thing that we'd thought of in our head that was going to be one day a Lego kit that people would be able to buy in the stores and build for themselves. And it was very surreal. I remember Bob and I looking at each other like, this is the craziest thing. We're actually holding this ship.
The show really has been received very well. So well, in fact, that you guys were nominated for 4 Daytime Emmy Awards. What has that been like for you guys, and going to the Emmys and all that stuff? We had such a good time at the Emmys. We didn't win a single thing, but what was really special about it, it would have been more special to win, let's not lie, but it was so much fun in that a lot of people from Lucasfilm, our production studio over in Denmark, came over here, and they came just to go to the Emmy Awards. And, we all went out and took over a bar in a local hotel that night after the awards ceremony.
Yeah, outdoor party. And there were, 40 of us? Yeah. And it was great to see, Bill and I are the hub. We deal with everybody. But there were people who, for instance, directors who had never met actors in person, and actors who had never met Michael Kramer, our composer. It was just great to see it become this big
team
Right.
of Freemaker Adventures were like,
The sound team over there meeting Matt Wood for the first time in person.
Yeah, like they've all talked over email, but that was the same conversation we kept hearing over and over again. Oh, it's so great to have a face to put with the name. So that was fun because this really truly is an international production. It's a global effort, and it was just great to have everybody there all at once. And it was like the biggest Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, it really was. And what was great is Vanessa Lenges, who plays Cordy on the show, she sort of took over as sort of the MC for the evening and did icebreakers and helped the group get to know each other better. And at one point, she said, all right, I want everybody to give the speech they would have given had we won. And what was really sweet about that was we realized that pretty much most of what we had to say, we wanted to say to all the people gathered around. So it was really nice to say, yeah, we don't have to have that trophy to be able to express how grateful we are that we've all had this opportunity and to be able to work on the show that we're all incredibly proud of.
It did take the pressure off. The ceremony, they announced, you have 30 seconds to give your speech, and I was the one who'd been appointed to give the speech if we won, and it was like, there's no way I can do this in 30 seconds. Through the entire ceremony, I was like going, okay, well, I'll just use first names, no last names. That'll help cut like 20 seconds out. But it was nice to be able to just relax and say, we want to thank you, and we want to thank you, and we want to thank you, and not have to speed through it. So it was almost a relief we didn't win. Almost.
Well, it's like what people say, it's an honor to be nominated, which we all know is garbage. Like, we want to win.
Yes, of course we wanted to win.
Yes, absolutely.
But I will say, the people at Amazon Studios who beat the pants off us, we've worked with them in the past. They are great people, and we couldn't be happier for them. So, it was all fun.
Yeah, and I actually found out today that the show, as far as its viewer numbers, has reached like over 55 million total views, which is crazy to me. And I'm so happy for you guys that the show's doing so well.
It's doing really well, and, we're just getting started. Season 2 is coming this summer, and I got to tell you, if you like Season 1, everything is kicked up a notch in Season 2, from storytelling to animation to just technical prowess on the show. Lucasfilm did a fantastic job on the first season. They really kicked it up a notch for the second season, and I'm tremendously proud of how Season 1 looks, and I'm crazy proud of how Season 2 is shaping up. Michael Kramer is also stepped forward and did brilliant work in Season 1, and Season 2 he's doing it even harder and better. Our entire cast, they're doing the same. Vanessa, Eugene, Bird, Nicholas Cantu, who is, this little savant genius of acting, and Matt Wood, Roger, all of them. I'm so tremendously proud of the show and the people who put it together.
Yeah, and it's funny, you've mentioned Vanessa a couple of times, and what's interesting about her for me is that I didn't realize that she played Cordy, and when I found out that it was her, it was such a weird shift for me because I'm used to her as Sugar Mata from Glee. And I had this moment of, I was like, what? It took me a while, but it's so cool.
Yeah, she was a fine person. To be totally honest, I watched monthly, but now I didn't stick with it for much past the first season. So when she came into audition for us, she was kind of a blank slate to me, and I think for you as well. Didn't really know who she was or where she came from, and man, she just knocked it out of the park. It was like, oh, there's Courtney, perfect.
And we've talked about this at different places about how much they are like a family, but they really are like a family. And so much so that even at the Emmy Awards, Eugene was constantly adjusting Nicholas's tie. Like, he's a little off, buddy, here. Let's just get that right. And it was just, they really fall into their roles so well, and it's really funny just to watch them in real life interacting, much like they do on the show.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. We know a lot about the Star Wars Rebels voice cast. You know, we've seen clips of them recording together. We see them on Rebels Recon and all this stuff. And we really don't know that much about the voice cast for this particular show. So what was the casting process like for you guys? And then also, like, do they record all together or just, like, one at a time?
We'll take those questions in the opposite order. We'll say first, yes, we record ensemble. Generally, when we record, we bring the core cast in: Nicholas, Vanessa, Nicholas, Eugene, and Matthew. And the beautiful thing about it is Matt flies down from Skywalker Ranch every week to record the show because he feels like it's important for me to be here in the room, which we couldn't be more grateful to him because he's absolutely right. There's better interaction.
Yeah, we keep laughing because I said, Matt, you have an amazing world-class sound booth literally a foot behind your chair in the office. But
you're willing to fly into Burbank Airport once a week.
Yeah, because it is that valuable, and he feels it, and the cast feels, the whole ensemble feels it, the energy playing off each other, and
so that was, that's how we recorded. You absolutely have to have, to get that family connection, to get that family spirit going, having them all together is just a necessity. So, especially when there's the opportunity to do a little bit of riffing or improv. Yeah, I mean, Vanessa and Eugene will adlib off each other, and it's just great because it nails that sibling rivalry stuff just so well.
Yeah.
The casting process was, casting is grueling. It's just terrible because it's, you sit on the same couch all day and you watch actor after actor after actor come in, and most of them are amazing. Yeah, they're amazing actors, but they're not right. They're very good, but they're not who you're looking for, and you have to kind of smile through your teeth. You don't want to send anybody out of the room in tears. Well, you also want to see if they can, if maybe with a little direction, they might find something, and so you want to give them. You want to go digging, and sometimes you're digging and you hit gold, and sometimes you just keep digging. So it's an exhausting process. And it is such a relief. It's for the actors and for us. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to say. I think it's harder for them. Absolutely, but it's hard for us on the other side too. So when you find somebody who steps into the booth and you hear them bring your character to life and they nail it, and then you go, okay, they can do it this one way. Let's throw a few curveballs at them to see how they adjust. Wow, they can do that too. Then when you've hit that, you're like, it's such a relief. It's so invigorating when somebody comes in and just nails the role. It makes you laugh in ways you didn't think the lines were going to. They add their own spice to it. And the funny thing about the auditions for our show was that we had to keep it on wraps, so we had to write fake auditions. So if you were to read the text, it seemed like it was some sort of strange wizard hot rod show. It was weird. It was a lot of talk about cars and magic and what the heck is magic? It was very odd. But it all had sort of the right tones. And when Eugene read the role for Xander, where he was supposed to be reacting to all these cool hot rods coming by, he came up with this brilliant, enthusiastic squeak thing that he does when he gets all his voice gets really high, and we just thought, oh man, that's really funny, and we can write to that. There's something there that we can make happen. And I remember Vanessa, we had written some of the fast talking, kind of trying to trick somebody, pull a fast one over somebody kind of dialogue, and we had the joke of OU812 was in there, and it was interesting that took a very particular read. Some people didn't get the joke at all, would say OU8112 or whatever it is, and whatever it is. But she got the rhythm and the cadence of what we wanted in Cordy, and we're like, oh yeah, that's working. And then Nicholas was just a little gentleman who came in. He was like this little, some kids come in and they're staring at their feet, or they're a little wiggly, and that is entirely age appropriate. Yes.
And he's that way, so he comes in with high fives.
He comes in, he high fives everybody in the booth. He goes in, he reads his lines perfectly, strolls out, shakes everybody's hands, says thank you for, looks you in the eye and says thank you, and walks out. And you're like, well, that was Rowan. Why are we even? Let's knock off for the rest of the day. That was Rowan. And then Matt was Matt because we knew we wanted Matt, and that was that. He
was Roger, but one of the things that was so delightful about Matt too was that having played battle droids before, and this sort of they're just these sort of hapless put upon soldiers in a way. Bringing forward Roger's personality was really fun. A way of getting a lot of humor out of him, a lot of sort of his pathetic need point of view, his clueless, from trenches to wrenches, autobiography and things like that. We just loved all the stuff that Matt brought into it, and he's had fun bringing, I think, Roger to life and to bring different nuances to the battle droids than maybe had been thought of before.
Yeah. Well, you've talked about the main cast, and it's funny because there's one particular individual that you guys have on your cast that has been in some of the other Lego Star Wars productions, and that's Trevor Duvall. And I love this guy as Akbar, but more importantly as the Emperor. And I actually got to interview him for another show that I do.
And what's really fun to Trevor too is most of the time, it's as far as Emperor and Vader and the new villain MOC in season 2. There's a lot of inter-office politics, dynamics, kind of stuff going on. But what's amazing too is there's a few times where we need the Emperor to be the Emperor from the films, bring the evil and the bad and scary. And when he makes that shift, it's kind of amazing because you're like, he's really nailing that performance. It really sounds like the Emperor that we've all come to fear and loathe.
Yeah, two things. One, talking about the voice cast, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Michael Donovan, our brilliant voice director. He, they're all wildly talented actors, but they can be like herding cats sometimes. And Michael's so great at helping them shape their performances and staying on point and always tracking what the story is and how it's supposed to go. So Michael's awesome, and our eternal gratitude to him. Going back to Trevor, I just want to say, another voice director friend of ours, Lisa Schaefer, was directing him on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
And he had told me, have you worked with this Trevor Duvall guy? He's just like the most versatile, amazing actor I've come across in a long time. I was like, oh, we haven't had a chance. And when we learned, when we landed this job and we learned he was the Emperor, I was like, oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. And my expectations were super high, and he has never let me down even once. He's just such a joy. And the other thing about Trevor, and you probably picked this up from your interview with him, is he's so quiet and humble in real life. He'll enter the booth. Some actors, they enter the booth, and it's like, they're their own herald. They blow their own trumpets, and that's fine. Those guys are great too. But Trevor will be in the booth before you even realize he's entered the room. He sort of sneaks it in, and suddenly you look at like, oh, this guy's the mic. It's amazing how he can turn it on and off that way, which is very funny. And we should also about Matt Sloan being Vader. Yes. Which he records out of Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And so it's always a phone patch, and so we have never actually met him face to face. No, we haven't.
Oh, no.
Which is interesting. And what's funny is that his reading of the line, he has a very particular cadence, but his voice is pitched down to be in the Vader level. So it's this funny transformation of hearing how he records it in the booth, which has a cadence like Vader, but doesn't really sound like Vader until it's gone through its post-process, and then it really sounds like Vader. When you're kind of going through did we nail that performance on the line? You have to kind of do this translation in your head. But he he somehow has figured out this brilliant way of figuring out exactly when to lean into the line.
And my other favorite thing, and I admit, we've overwritten it just because it makes me laugh super hard every time. Nails that Vader what from A New Hope. Hits the TIE fighter and it blows up and throws Vader off into the space. I love that moment. I love Matt's interpretation of that moment, and I will write it into every script I find a chance to. Just
so that's overdone. You can blame me, Bob.
That's my fault, and I will not apologize.
Now I'm pretty.
Automatically.
Yeah, right. We're actually going to talk about y'all's Twitters as we get to the end of this. By the way, there's a line that the Emperor says, and this is from one of our listeners. Like, he says "zippity zap" when he's doing the Force lightning stuff. That came over from the other Lego shows, right?
I don't remember to be.
It probably is. It's probably something he carried over doing it, but he found it so funny.
Yeah, my gut instinct is that is something Trevor ad-libbed in the booth. And I don't know if he'd ad-libbed it previously or had picked it up previously in the Michael Price era. But
so funny. It just seems so... Yeah, you'll see more of that in season.
So let's talk.
Happy to run that into the ground.
Yeah, that one. I'm fine with that one too. So there's been a lot of Lego Star Wars animation prior to the Freemaker Adventures, and so I know we still have a lot of people in Star Wars fandom that haven't really started watching this show yet. So can you guys tell them what kinds of things that they can expect from the Freemaker Adventures that's different from what they've seen before?
Yeah, well, what we'll say, and we should take a quick side note to say that the previous Lego Star Wars TV specials, Yoda Chronicles, New Yoda Chronicles, Padawan Menace, all those droid tales, all those were done by a friend of ours named Michael Price, who is a genius, and we definitely stand on the shoulders of the great work he did.
Simpsons producer, he's just brilliant.
So what I'll say is, what is different about the Freemaker Adventures from those shows is, those shows, they leaned very heavily on parody. They were sort of a Mad Magazine interpretation of the Star Wars universe.
So you knew the content it was sort of playing with.
Right.
And, it was riffing on
those moments, those iconic moments.
Yeah.
The goal with the Freemaker Adventures was slightly different. It wasn't, let's keep revisiting those moments and poking fun at them. It was, let's tell a story in the Star Wars universe that is every bit as much a Star Wars story as anything else out there, Rebels or Clone Wars or any of that stuff. That it embraces the humor of the Lego aesthetic, but really stands on its own two legs to tell the kind of adventure, excitement, action, and humor that you get in the live-action Star Wars movies.
Right. So we couldn't rely on parody because these are new characters and new situations, so you wouldn't know what we're kind of making fun of.
Right.
And we also wanted to tonally feel more like the films and the other materials that So Star Wars is a mix of comedy and drama and action and adventure and suspense and a little horror and all these sort of things.
A bit of sadness, a little bit of melancholy.
Yeah, and so we wanted to sort of have the full spectrum of emotion in the show, which I think in the very first episode of Freemakers, when Nare is revealed as to what she actually is, I think through a number of people that we kind of went into a sort of dark direction with that.
Mm-hmm.
And we had immense joy about that.
Oh, I loved it. Can I just say, out of the three girls that are on this show, I'm the Darksider because I claim that Darth Maul is my boyfriend. And so, yes, so that moment at the end of the first...
very carefully around you.
That moment at the end of the first episode when Nare is revealed, I fangirl flailed so hard. I was like, this is the best!
Yeah, right down to that moment, we wanted to have a moment that was as shocking as "No, Luke, I am your father."
Yes.
Again, we wanted to embrace everything that Star Wars brings, including those kinds of I'm shocked. So,
Michael Kramer did a beautiful job supporting us with his music. So there's that sweet moment between Nara and Rowan. Yeah, and you think, oh, this is all great. He's going off to train, and then you get that reveal. And that's where we kind of wanted, so people in the show is to sort of say...
oh, by the way, if you haven't seen the show, that was a huge spoiler.
So don't listen to the part you just heard. But we kind of wanted to go in some places that, obviously have the humor and the fun of Lego, but also we do want to have the audience constantly being reminded that these are minifigs and bricks. We wanted them to think of them as characters, right? Mm-hmm. And to fall in love with them as people, and to be concerned about them, and to worry about them, and hope that they achieve their goals, and worried that when it looks like they may not. And, we wanted them to be as engaged with these characters as they are with anyone in the Star Wars universe. So hopefully we pulled that off, or at least gave it a good old Emmy-nominated, if not winning, try.
Well, you guys have mentioned Michael Kramer a couple of times, and that's actually something we wanted to ask you guys about. What kind of musical direction do you guys give Michael for each episode, or is it, or what's the process with him?
So we give him super exacting direction, and we're responsible for everything. He's just a vessel through which we communicate our brilliance. No, Michael's a genius. No, struck mine. What have I said? No, Michael's a musical genius, and Bill and I absolutely are not. So what we do, the process is we go to Michael's studio. We watch the episode together, and scene by scene.
With the over on Skype with the directors from
so the directors from Lucasfilm, it's midnight their time, but they're staying with us bleary-eyed. We go through the episodes scene by scene, and we just talk about each scene and what is the emotion we're trying to convey. Where does the temp music that's in there, where does it hit it right, and where is it completely off course, and what could be enhanced.
Sometimes there's choices like, what if the scene is an action scene, but there's little moments of comedy? Do you hit the moments of comedy, you just stay with the action or the drama? So where's the weight of the tonally?
And oftentimes we'll say to Kramer, use your best judgment. You have our complete trust. You're a genius. That's sort of the process, and we spend a good time talking about what Williams' score was to Star Wars.
So we heavily reference the original.
Are there moments in the 7 movies that are out there that we can reference where we see Rowan in a position that's similar to Luke's? And sometimes it's not even bringing back the themes of those moments. Sometimes it's just, let's just listen to those original tracks and listen to what the instrumentation was, and maybe just hitting those similar tones with the same instrument. Mm-hmm. Rather than other times, no, let's just a note for note rendition of the Williams themes, or sometimes we mix them up and say, try it with a different instrument and see what that sounds like. I wish there was an episode I could tell you about. There's one coming up in season 2 that Michael's done some brilliant reinterpretations of the Williams score through really different, unique kind of instruments. And I want to get away from that. And I can tell you what he did. I think if I fix the episode and watch for it, he did some beautiful work.
So there's certain things like Emma's theme in season 2, for me, is reminiscent of Williams' simplicity in the Jaws theme.
We at Fangirls Going Rogue are super big on promoting women in Star Wars and on the creative side, as well as, of course, the characters and stuff. And Carrie Beck is such a huge part of y'all's team, and we were really sad that she couldn't make it to Celebration. What does she bring to the show and the storytelling process for you guys?
everything. I mean, this show would have been impossible to do without Carrie. Or if we tried, if anybody had ever thought to let us do it, Carrie's the one who said, no, Bill and Bob should be the ones doing this show. Without her holding our hand every step of the way, this thing would have been a disaster. She is a certified genius and incredibly supportive and calls us on our BS when we need our BS calls. She's full of fantastic ideas and also open to hearing different interpretations, and she's just incredibly supportive and wonderful. One of the things you always want to have happen when you're in story meeting is you want to take an idea and make it better. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's very frustrating in story process is when you feel like it's just getting different or even worse. And sometimes there's something elusive where it really needs to be something like this, but we're just not sure how to get there. And what's great about Carrie is that she always seems to machete a path through the wilderness, and help us, think things or think deeper, think, in ways that we would not have necessarily gone originally. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in each step, the stories get richer and deeper, more Star Wars, more fulfilling, and we are better writers because of her. Absolutely. And that's kind of nice after, as long as we've been writing together, it's nice to sort of have an experience where you are met with surprises that actually help you achieve what you want to achieve better. And the beautiful thing about Carrie, there are a million beautiful things about Carrie, but one of my favorite things about Carrie is she has no poker face whatsoever. When you pitch an idea and she's giggling and she's laughing or she's smiling broad or she's going, oh, that's so cool. You know that's legit. And when she's sitting there going, I've never heard about it. So you're like, oh, okay, well, that didn't hit. Yeah, we're obviously barking up the wrong tree on this one.
You're like, I'm just going to stop talking now.
Yeah. Well, I'll point to, what was it? I think it was episode 8 in the first season, The Test. That was a really difficult episode to put together in that, we work with a writer's room on this show, but because episode 8 of our series dealt with episode 7, the movie, before the movie came out, Bill and I had to be, that one was all on us. We couldn't let our writers in on what happened in that episode, which led to all sorts of great conversations, when talking about other episodes of, well, maybe we could do this. No, you can't do that because we're doing that in the secret episode. Sorry. That episode went through a completely different second half. The first half was always pretty much locked. Mare reveals who she, or Rowan reveals he knows who she is. There's a confrontation. They escape the wheel. And then they go to Mozz's castle. And Motz is the top secret thing. We learned about Motz before the rest of the world did. Mm-hmm. But where the story went from there took a completely different twist, and it is all up to Carrie. I'm so proud of that episode. It is only as good as it is because Carrie looked at our initial pitch and said, guys, I love you, and normally I'm on board with whatever you say. This one just isn't working, and I can't quite tell you why, but I need you to go back and rethink everything.
Well, she was also the one who then said it needs to be a moral test.
Yeah.
And that just really worked. It was like, we have to show that Rowan is someone who makes a good moral judgment and deserves to have the thing.
Because really what it's all about is Maz, as soon as she sees him, knows who he is. And does she want to give him this crystal she has in her possession? Mm-hmm. Again, if you haven't watched season 2, sorry.
Yeah.
Available on Netflix, not Netflix, sorry, iTunes, Amazon, and Blu-ray.
I don't tell you exactly. So, you guys were talking about Carrie as far as sort of helping you guys to become better writers, and it occurred to me that within the Freemaker Adventures, we delve into some of those themes that are so important to the Star Wars universe, and those deeper themes. And a lot of people see this as just like a kid's show, and it's funny because I feel like it is, but it's not. So what are some of those themes that you guys got to play with that you were so excited about because they were just so Star Wars?
One, this show is about family on in both, concrete terms, the text. But the subtext of the show is also family. And, it was the very first thought we had when we heard about this. And, we set a Lego Star Wars show, brand new characters. What do Lego and Star Wars have in common? And the very first thing, just sort of word association with family. And it was like, great, it's got to be about family. And Lego is about building with your family. You and your mom and your dad sit down and build a kit together. And Star Wars, to me, has always been about family. Again, both texts. You think it's about Luke? No, it's not about Luke. It's about Luke and his dad. No, wait, it's not about Luke and his dad. It's about Luke and his dad and his sister that he never knew he had. And then we're going to go back in time and show you how his folks got together. And then it's also, just on a meta level, my whole life is wrapped up in Star Wars and what it meant to my family and how I've made connections within my family through Star Wars and go into all those stories. And then the other themes, the show is ultimately Rowan's show. And, here's this little lonely kid who's looking for a way to contribute and not seeing a way to do it, and then learning, steal the line from the trailer, you have that power too.
It's a hero's journey story.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we wanted to do that you don't typically see, I think, in a kid's thing, is that sometimes when you are on a path, you can't go home again.
Right.
And we wanted there to be consequences to the actions, and that there were sacrifices to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And the Freemakers was to say, okay, you won't get to be able to return to Freemaker salvage and repair. That won't be your life anymore. Cordy learns lessons from Princess Leia about sacrifice, and they all kind of grow into becoming better people on a journey where they realize that they can't just be on the sidelines of right and wrong. They have to be an active participant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, the themes of growing and developing your powers, what we thought was a really fun thing was this, for the first half of the season, you get Rowan being gained by a Jedi who is secretly a Sith. So you get to see sort of her warped interpretations of what it means to be a Jedi. And then the second half of the season, you see Rowan just sort of trying to develop his powers on his own. And one of the things is this from a few different things. Yeah, one of the things, and this was not intentional, it just sort of came to be, and once we realized we were doing it, embraced it, which was Rowan gets his best advice about the Force from Xander, who knows nothing about the Force and is not strong with the Force, does not have a single midichlorian in his bloodstream. But he this lump-headed with a wrench kind of has this sort of innate ability to know how the Force works. So yeah, I mean, it's all those things, and that the thing that we loved, and our thanks to Lego and Carrie and everybody at Lucasfilm and everybody at Disney was nobody ever said, no, stop, it's getting too serialized, it's getting too serious, it's getting too heavy. They were always supportive of exploring those themes that are more than you tend to find in just a average kid's TV show.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's one of the things that makes the show interesting. And I think a lot of Star Wars fans don't want something that's bubbly and cookie cutter. Like, we want the deeper stuff because we want more of that backstory. And I think that the Freemaker Adventures definitely brings that into the forefront. So let's move into season 2. And I know there's not a whole lot you guys can say, but we were just talking about Rowan and not really having sort of a mentor like Ezra has Kanan or like Luke has Yoda. And I heard you guys on Star Scavengers talking about Corey and possibly being kind of a mentor for Rowan. So what is it like bringing Corey, originally from Star Wars Rebels, into the Freemaker Adventures, and with as much as you can tell us, how is he going to sort of influence Rowan's arc moving forward?
Well, the first question was, is Quarry alive? Does Dave have plans to kill him off in season 4? Can we find out? No, for all this show is not canon. If you see a character alive on our show in a time period, that means they are alive.
We work very closely with
we are not being threaded into the canon, but that does not mean we don't have to obey the canon. So that was the first thing. Just, okay, this seems like a really cool idea. Let's make sure we can actually do it. Quarry doesn't. He's been around for a long time. He's an old guy, and he's been all around the galaxy, and he's seen all sorts of things, and he knows the history of the galaxy in a way that a lot of people running around the Star Wars sagas don't. He doesn't have the Force. The Force does not flow through him, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know about the Force. And he sees something in Rowan that is something that he realizes the galaxy could desperately need. And he sees ways to channel it, and like any mentor, he's there to form it and shape it, and help Rowan along on his journey to whatever it is Rowan is destined to become. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool moments with Quarry, and he's a funny character, which we will happily take as many funny characters as we can, because ultimately, if you ask me, Star Wars is at its best when it has funny moments.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
By the way, another Carrie Beck idea. It was totally her idea to bring in Quarry for season 2.
Awesome.
We could spend a whole hour just saying hats off to Carrie. Hats off to Carrie.
So, with season 2 coming up, y'all are still tying in the idea of the Kyber crystals, which, as we all know, is sort of a big thing right now. Rogue One, and then season 1 of your show. And so, why are y'all sticking... Well, I guess that's actually really my question. Why are we sticking with the Kyber crystal theme as far as it being... I think it's like the energy source or the power source for the arrowhead, correct?
Correct. Right. Well, it puts Rowan at the center of the story again. Part of Rowan's unique Force abilities is he's sort of a divining rod for Kyber crystals. He can sense them. And his powers are going to develop even further in the second season. When we saw him in season 1, he had to be, early in the season, he had to be, within 10 feet before he could really feel one of these things. Mm-hmm. As the season went on, he was getting better and better at finding them and sensing them. He wasn't, in their thrall the way he was in the first few episodes.
And as you know, our story takes place in the Return of the Jedi era.
Right.
And there's
up to the Return of the Jedi era.
And there's something else that requires Kyber crystals.
Right.
So that creates tension.
Yeah. So it just makes sense to bring all that along again. Again, we don't want to give too many spoilers, but, if you think about what we see that's come back in Return of the Jedi, on Death Star.
That's not a spoiler. That's like...
Yeah. Not a spoiler. If you haven't seen it since, you've had it since 1983, people. I'm not going to help you on this one. So, clearly, as important as Kyber crystals were to the first Death Star, of course they'd be important to the second Death Star. And that puts Rowan at the center of the story, and then, how the arrowhead ties into all that. You'll have to see. You'll just have to see.
Very cool.
I'm just doing XP.
But I will say, speaking of that bit, and I know this is when you'll have to go back and revisit this moment. But one of my favorite moments of season 2 takes place. If you see the teaser, you'll see a little cave, and there's some crystals happening in that scene. Mm-hmm. And that contains, for me, talking about the depth of the Star Wars storytelling, a scene between Cordy and Rowan that is pretty heavy, pretty profound, if I do say so myself, in terms of dealing with big themes.
Mm-hmm. And beautifully acted by Vanessa and Nicholas.
And executed by Will Zillman. It's absolutely gorgeous. But I have yet to watch that scene and not cry.
Oh.
It gets me every time.
Gosh.
So that is really... I know. Well, I'm a sap, so it's not really, the bar's not that high.
No, I love that. But like I hope it's followed with like a very funny Roger moment that makes you go, okay, I'm not gonna cry forever.
Well, you are absolutely correct. I will tell you. Would you like to join our writing staff? It's literally followed with the Roger moment. But yeah,
I mean, it's important that we never lose sight of what we are too, which is, ultimately we're leaning a little heavier into comedy than most Star Wars does, but hopefully not too much. Because we want to have those moments.
I want it to feel. I want the experience of watching the show feel like the same feelings you get watching it as you do when you watch the movies, and
You, Roger.
Yeah.
Well, you just mentioned Rebels, and that leads me right into my next thing, because I have to ask you about bringing Hera onto the show. Who decided that was a good idea? I'm going to go ahead and assume Carrie. Carrie's idea.
Carefully vetted through the whole story group.
I said to Bill today earlier, I don't want to dampen enthusiasm. Hera is in the season, and she has an important role to play.
An ongoing role.
And an ongoing role. She is not. There's not a huge amount of Hera.
Yeah, she's a supporting
character.
Same with Chopper. You get to see Chopper too, but again, he's
Chopper's there. It's still the Freemaker show, and the Freemakers are front and center. So yes, but Hera's in there. Yes, it was Carrie's idea. Yes, Vanessa Marshall came in to do the voice, and she was incredibly kind, and she recorded a message for my son on his birthday, and then sent him a little package of beautiful Star Wars toys, and she's an incredible, warm, beautiful person, and we were so happy to have that character on the show.
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky to actually call Vanessa like family to me. She and I are like sisters, and so when I found out that she was going to do this, when the announcement was made, I immediately texted her and I was like, yes! I was so excited for her. And even though she won't be in there like all the time, that's fine. I just love that it's Hera, because we've gotten so much Sabine in Rebels that I'm like, Hera lives.
Yeah. We love Hera and we love Vanessa, and especially with the road that Cordy is on in the second season, it just made perfect sense. Another strong female leader for Cordy to look up to and be a little intimidated by.
Yeah.
Room for Cordy and room for jokes, which as soon as we see those, we'll take that.
Well, you know what? I had like a mind-blown moment just now as I was realizing the timeline for the Freemaker Adventures. It's so weird that I hadn't put this together. But like, we're pre-Return of the Jedi and Hera's still alive. Oh my god.
Correct? Yes. And again, you can take that, not that our show is canon, but you can take that as canon. That was vetted by the story group. It was vetted by Dave. We made extra sure. We asked repeatedly, you're not going to kill her. She's going to survive. So, spoilers for season 4 of Rebels, but Hera's going to make it out alive.
Well, we kind of knew that, at least from Rogue One.
Yeah, we knew that from Rogue One, right?
Yeah. But I mean, but as far as after Empire, that's what I'm saying. Like,
exactly.
So for me and my fan brain right now, I'm like, oh my god, Hera could show up in like the sequel trilogy if she's still alive.
Yes.
So she very well could. She very well could. And I know you guys mentioned Chopper, but I thought I had heard you guys on Star Scavengers say that Chopper was really only going to be in the shorts that I was getting ready to ask you guys about. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
He's in the shorts.
He's in the shorts. I think we see some cameos of him.
He's in the last episode.
He's definitely in the last episode. I think there might be a couple more throughout the season.
Yeah.
But
there's not a lot of interaction outside of the shorts.
There's definitely a Roger Chopper good interaction in the shorts. The rest of it it's more akin to the stuff you got in Rogue One, where look, there's Chopper in the background.
Got it. All right. Well, let's talk about these
we
shorts.
Love Chopper.
Well, I think everybody loves Chopper, but let's talk about these shorts, and which is part of the reason that we're doing this interview now is because these shorts are releasing on May the 4th, which is tomorrow, and it's going to be combined with all day, 24-hour airing of the Freemaker Adventures on Disney XD, and then the shorts are going to be interspersed within that time frame. So what can you guys tell us about the shorts, and where did the idea for them come from?
Part of it was we knew that we could do the shorts. We wanted to sort of bridge a little bit between season 1 and season 2, because we knew that the last of the episodes of season 1, to the first of the episodes of season 2 was quite a gap, and so we wanted to create this bridge content that sort of remind you of who the Freemakers are and where they left off in season 1, and then hit a little further to where they're going in season 2.
It picks up right where season 1 ends. So fade out season 1, fade up season 2,
5.5 seconds.
Yeah,
it's just that quick.
It's that quick turnaround. So the 5 shorts sort of examine the Freemakers and how they fit into the Rebel Alliance, and finding their place, proving their worth, and how can they each one sort of focuses on one of the characters. The first one focuses on Cordy. Then we have one about Roger. We have one that puts Rowan in the center. We have one that puts Xander in the center, and the final one is sort of the whole family working as a team. And it just shows how they can be an asset to the Rebel Alliance. And the other thing I'm really excited to see people's reaction to
a brand new character
named Lieutenant Valeria, voiced by Yvette Nicole Brown, who is, it's not just, I don't know if you're familiar with her online presence, but she is a big geek, and that's not just for show. She was so thrilled to be a part of this, and knew everything. Was able to walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah, she's a legit Star Wars fan.
Is this the pilot, the African American pilot with the blue?
Yes.
Yes.
That is her.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Valeria. She is such a kick-ass character. I'm so proud of this character. And Yvette brought her to life beautifully, and you'll see a lot of her tomorrow. And I'm dying to see you.
We'll see a lot of her all through
season 2. Yeah.
Oh, good, good. So she's not just in the shorts. Awesome.
No, she's not just in the shorts.
She's a significant character.
Yeah.
Okay, well, awesome. And just before we move a little bit further, just so our listeners know, today, as you're hearing this, should be May the 4th. If you want to see the 5 shorts that we are talking about, they are available on the Disney XD app and also on Disney XD's YouTube channel. So go check them out. You guys have mentioned several times about the canon of your shows, and I'm doing what I call bunny ears, like the quotation marks of the canon. And I've heard you guys refer to it as diet canon. So can you sort of explain to us, as far as the Freemaker Adventures and Star Wars is concerned, what diet canon means?
Let's put it this way. The show is not canon. You will not see the Freemakers show up somewhere else in a Star Wars in any other Star Wars property. And the reasons for that, I don't even think we can really go into. But what I will say is that, again, you can look at the characters in our show, and if we tell you Hera's alive on the eve of Return of the Jedi, that means Hera's alive. Honestly, it's
for all intents and purposes, the stories all could have happened.
Yeah.
It's just that
we're not going to contradict anything in the canon.
And It's just that because we are a Lego show, and obviously they weren't many bigs, and they didn't pull their hair off, and they didn't, they did.
That was funny.
We do, and that kind of thing.
I mean, we certainly take liberties. I don't think the Emperor and Vader were
quite that snarky.
We're playing pranks on their subordinates. Nevertheless, like the big strokes of the show, taken at its at its widest glance, you can kind of see that. Yeah, this all could have happened in the Star Wars universe. We're not going to tell you something that contradicts it, and. Boy, I could get on my soapbox, and maybe I should.
I was a bit tempted to say to people who, ask a lot about canon, just to say, no, it's not canon, so stop enjoying it.
Yeah, the show isn't not canon, we've just been informed.
Yeah. But
sorry, stop enjoying. Here's the thing.
But we do work so closely with the story group that the difference of canon versus not canon really ought to be fairly moot.
I think Tracy's going to cut the line.
Hard.
The canon of it is sort of, I don't get frustrated, but I do shake my head in that. I don't think it's something that really people should be concerned about, and here's why. I grew up loving Star Wars Marvel comics. Those aren't canon. They're fantastic stories. They're goofy, and they're weird, and they don't fit in the canon at all. I can still pick them up and enjoy them. And what does it matter that they're not canon? Canon is something that Pablo should worry about and something that Leland should worry about. And those are the only two people on this planet who should really be worried about the spending their mind, making sure the continuity works. The rest of us should just be enjoying the Star Wars we enjoy. If you enjoy every last little shred of it, fantastic, you're my kind of people, and if all you want to take is the parts that you enjoy and ignore the rest, more power to you as well.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I come down on it. It's not. It's kind of almost. I miss fandom when it was a little looser and a little freer.
That makes total sense. I mean, like, here's my thing. In my head canon, Lego Freemaker Adventures is canon. So they do exist. They are real. My head canon. So there are a lot of Star Wars fans that still haven't watched this show. And for me, I'm just like, why? Why are you not watching the show? It is so well done. The animation is great. It's funny. It's entertaining. It has great characters, and it ties into all the Star Wars stuff you love. Why are you not watching it? So, what would be your pitch? What would be your pitch to somebody who says, I don't know if I should really watch it. I mean, it's not the movies. What would your pitch be to that person?
My pitch would be, try our very first episode. And, if you don't like it after that, we can't make something that pleases everybody, of course. I think you'll be surprised that this isn't just silly fluff, that it's a genuine Star Wars story and will give you insights into the Star Wars universe. Most importantly, it's a rip-roaring, fun Star Wars story. Canon or not, who cares? And that would be my pitch.
Cool.
And my other pitch is, it's 22 minutes. What else are you doing?
Exactly. So you
spare 22 minutes. You're gonna let a brilliant Star Wars story slip by you and never experience it because you can't spend 22 minutes just giving it a chance? Come on, exactly. And not to mention there is a very cute baby Wampa in the show, so if you've never seen a baby Wampa before, and I know we had a little campaign going around on Twitter for a baby Wampa plushie, so how's that going? Do we need to start a hashtag back up again or something? I think it needs a breath of fresh life, and Teresa, I'm putting it on you.
Oh, good.
You were to get the word out. We need a baby Wampa.
So remember to @Lego #baby Wampa.
And I'll say, I was in the Lego store just yesterday, and I noticed they have plush Batman. So it's not like they're not doing plush. It's not like they don't know how to make plush. They know how to make plush. They ought to be making a baby Wampa.
Baby Wampa. But while we're at it, not just Lego, but from Rebels, we still need a baby Kitwar, which was the little baby Wookiee. Like, we still need that. So, I mean, we want the baby animals. People, come on.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm with you 100%.
All right.
Starter.
So as we wrap this up, one of the things I did want to ask you guys is, I know you're fans of Lego and you're fans of Star Wars, but what is a favorite Lego set that you have built? And it can be either Star Wars or non-Star Wars, but like one of your favorites.
Oh my gosh.
I'll give you mine if it helps. It gives you time to think. I'll give you mine really quick. Mine's actually the Night Bus from Harry Potter. And it's just such a cool set.
Yeah. So, well, my favorite would probably be the Star Scavenger, because that came out of our heads. But I'm going to recuse ourselves from saying anything about Freemakers or even Star Wars sets, because it's just too easy. My favorite set, and I actually went on eBay and purchased it, was the old Space Explorer set. It was a little blue spaceship. It came with a guy with a little tractor loader.
Yes.
And this was back in the 70s. Actually, we told this story when we were interviewing for the job. I grew up in my basement, essentially. Like, my playroom is in my basement. And along one wall, I had shelves where, when I was forced to clean them all up, all my Star Wars toys went. Along the other wall were the shelves with all my buckets full of Lego junk. And I would spend, hours trying to build. And this was long before Lego was licensing Star Wars. So I would try to build, Lego bases for my Kenner figures. And they'd always come out stupid because they were on a green plate, and then the bricks were just blue and red and green and orange and purple. And it's like, this doesn't look like a Rebel base at all. So, that was my one frustration with Lego and Star Wars as a kid, that I wanted Lego Star Wars toys. To see them meld was a dream come true back in '99, and now to be actually contributing to that
is a blast.
That's a blast. Yeah.
And I would say, for me, all right, so before we recuse, I love building the Arrowhead, which is the new kit that's coming out this summer for Season 2. That ship was a lot of fun to imagine and think up, and its history, and so that was really fun putting it together.
And I'll say also the Tracker 1, and nobody's paying us to say this, the Tracker 1 is the most awesome ship I've ever built. That's pretty cool. It's some freaking cool things it can do.
But I love building, like the palace. I have the Lego Movie Palace. I love building the sort of building sets. I also have the set of the bank, which I think is really funny.
I have that one too. The city sets.
Yeah, yes. So the money laundering is very funny for me. But yeah, I just love all the detail that goes into those sets.
Yeah, well, you know what, you just reminded me that the Night Bus is my favorite set I've ever built, but my husband and I are collecting the entire Christmas line of like the shops and houses and villages and stuff. So we have all of those. Yeah. So some people have all of the like really nice like breakable ones. Ours are all Lego. So
right. Yeah, I have the toy shop things for Lego Christmas.
All right, well, I told you guys we were going to talk about your Twitter handles. So here it comes. Where do your Twitter handles come from? Let's start with Automatic Gravy.
This goes back a long ways. Several years ago, we were in a fried chicken restaurant called Dinah's Fried Chicken in Glendale, California. We were there with a whole bunch of our buddies, eating another unhealthy lunch, and
we're trying to be better.
Bill was ordering the chicken, and he ordered mashed potatoes. Was it you? No. It was somebody.
Gary.
Oh, you're right. It was Gary. Our friend Gary was ordering the mashed potatoes, and he asked, "Does that come with gravy?" And the waitress's response was, "Oh yeah, the gravy's automatic."
It happened to also be that we were forming our corporations.
Yeah. So, and I just laughed. I said, the gravy is automatic. I want that to be the title of my autobiography.
So we had to come up with names for our corporations. Bob submitted that one.
So that's where automatic gravy comes from, and that was probably 10
more than that.
More than that, yeah.
And yes, so that's why it is.
There's the secret origin.
In mine, inevitably, Bill, it's sort of with that eye roll that whenever I'm pontificating about something Bob gives me, I go, oh, geez, inevitably, Bill is going to say something. It's built in with self-deprecation of, you should read my tweets with a little bit of an eye roll and a sigh, like, oh, there he goes.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for spending so much time with us to talk about all this stuff. And we would love to have you guys on as the season progresses and get get into your heads a little bit as we move forward. Have y'all released the number of episodes for season 2?
So it is the 5 shorts and then 12 episodes.
Okay.
The 5 shorts, when you combine them together, make 22 minutes. So it's really 13 episodes, but 13 episodes worth of content, but 5 shorts, 12 episodes.
All right.
And we would love to come back on. Anytime you guys want to have us, we would happily come on.
Thank you so much for being with us. And until next time.
Da, 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 da.
Yum.
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 If you enjoyed this interview with Bob Roth and Bill Motz of the Freemaker Adventures, leave us a review on iTunes. For social media, at FGGoingRogue on Twitter and Instagram, Trisha at Fangirl Cantina, Teresa at Ice Cold Penguin, Sarah at Jedi Tink, Sandra at Geek Chic 9. You can join us on Facebook at Fangirls Going Rogue, or try to join our special Facebook group and have a discussion about it. We had a lot of fun. Tumblr, fangirlsgoingrogue.tumblr.com. Voicemail, 331-21-EWOKS or 331-213-9657. And as always, you can leave us an email, contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com.